Hello and welcome to the Film Mandate. The long-awaited sequel to the Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ has finally been announced. And not only are we getting one, but two sequels to the hitmaker, which screened about 20 years ago. And also, Djimon Hounsou and Halle Berry will be starring in a film titled Red Card, which will be directed by Rust director Souza. And the story is inspired by a real life event that happened in the country of Kenya, right across to Egypt. And last but not the least, Toronto International Film Festival will have the documentary category kicked off by Obama's The Eyes of Ghana, which stars Chris Hesse, Kwame Nkrumah's personal cinematographer. So we'll be talking about all these stories and more right here on the Film Mandate. My name is Papa Otu. Stay tuned. Welcome back once again to this episode of the Film Mandate, where I bring to you movie news, reviews, and reactions both from the African front and the international scene. And thank you for joining me for this episode. So we'll be delving into the very first story. And the very first story, as you have known, over about 20 years ago, a film debuted in the cinemas, and all we knew about it was that it starred and it was directed by Mel Gibson. But what we also came to discover, even though we know it's a religious movie, it's a movie about Christ, it was one of a kind that is very different from all other, you know, movies about the savior that has been done prior. And this went all out to be an R-rated movie, not hiding any of the gory aspect of what Jesus Christ went through to bring salvation to the world. And over the years, it was said that it was going to do a sequel to that property. And for so long a time, nothing was really heard about the potential sequel till now, when the the Lionsgate, who is now partnering with Icon Productions, that's Mel Gibson's feature production vehicle for his feature films, they partnered together and they have come up with an announcement, exciting one, of course, and they went ahead to make it known in a Twitter post, which I would like to show right here prior to us discussing into details what they have for us. So let's take a look briefly as to this particular way they did the announcement. So here we go. So that is how they did the announcement, that the sequels actually is, or the sequel, which is originally meant to be one, has been split into two and is now going to be the resurrection of the Christ, which would premiere on March 26th, 2027. And then the third in the installation of trilogy of the films would be the Ascension of the Christ. And the Ascension of the Christ would premiere 40 days after the what's it called, the Resurrection of the Christ, which will fall on Ascension Day. So the films have been done such that it coincides with the the actual events that we mark and celebrate in today's or in current times. So the first one would open on Good Friday, and then the second one would open on Ascension Day to coincide with the real events that occurred during those times. So there is a number of articles that have been published on this, and I thought I would share one with us as we read through. So we'll have an article published in the Variety, and it says that Mel Gibson. So it reads that Mel Gibson splits Passion of the Christ sequel into two movies, set 2027 release dates, and is written by Rebecca Rubin. So there in your short is Jim Caviezel, who will be reprising his role as Jesus Christ. So I read, Mel Gibson's much delayed The Passion of the Christ sequel will be split into two films, with each part set to release in 2027. The Resurrection of the Christ Part 1 is slated for Good Friday, March 26th, while Part 2 is set for 40 days later on Ascension Day, May 6th. Lionsgate will release the films in theaters. The Resurrection of the Christ is the follow-up to 2004's biblical epic, The Passion of the Christ, which until last year was the highest-grossing R-rated film of all time at the domestic box office with $370 million. And with reference to the domestic box office, it is the North American box office. So just take note of that. So that record was recently supplanted by Disney's Deadpool and Wolverine, which earned a mammoth $636 million domestically. The Passion of the Christ remains one of the biggest independent films ever, with $610 million globally against a $30 million production budget. In addition to commercial glory, the movie was nominated at the Oscars for Best Makeup, Cinematography, and Original Score. The original film starring Jim Caviezel as Jesus of Nazareth and Monica Bellucci as Mary Magdalene followed the final 12 hours before the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Gibson has described the sequels as an acid trip, adding that he never read anything like the script which the filmmaker has been writing alongside Randall Wallace as Randall Wallace. As the title suggests, the plot is expected to focus on Jesus Christ's resurrection. Gibson, whose career was derailed by several off-screen controversies, returned to studio filmmaking for the first time in 8 years with this January's Flight Risk. The plane set thriller starring Mark Wahlberg failed to ignite at the box office with just 48 million. He previously directed 2016's Hacksaw Ridge, Braveheart, and Apocalypto. Yeah, so this is an exciting development with regards to the return of Mel Gibson to direct the Passion of the Christ sequel. So, I mean, when a few years or perhaps even right after the release of the Passion of the Christ, which became a critical hit, conversations or Mel Gibson himself was hinting at coming up with a sequel. And for a long time, it seems as if it will never happen because, I mean, 20 years is quite long a time to still think that it wouldn't happen. But owing to how recent times we've had releases or remakes or potential sequels or films that have happened about 20, 30 years ago, it is finally the turn of the Passion of the Christ. And what makes the Passion of the Christ quite interesting is the fact that the story is an ongoing story that replays every year, particularly for those of us Christians who fellowship with, who mark the days of the death of Christ and also his ascension. It is something that we recall every year. So the potential of a sequel is really it's something that would definitely sell provided it is done well and provided that it is marketed well to that demographics of audience who would want to watch it. But aside that audience, Mel Gibson as a filmmaker is indeed a very powerful director. From some of the films that he's done in the past, like Hacksaw Ridge, which spoke about the uh, the the soldier, the lone soldier who believed in through his faith, believed that all he needed to do as a child of God in the military is to just save one more soldier who were behind enemy lines. And that film was so compelling and captivating that regardless of your faith, whether you're a Christian or not, you still were attracted to the film. Same with Apocalypto, which spoke about the Mayans, almost an extinct culture that were I mean spoke about their story and the challenges they had to go through facing another tribe that wanted to dominate them and sacrifice them to the gods. And after all that, it ended up with the advent of the Europeans coming to that side of the world to want to colonize them. And Braveheart was also exceptionally well, which dealt with is it a Scottish I mean the occupation of the British in the Scottish land, and you had Wallace sacrificing himself or being arrested, and his death brought the freedom to the Scottish people. I hope I'm getting the stories right, but the thorough line through all these films are that Mel Gibson can direct very well. Direct so much well that every one of these films were won awards, several awards, and also nominated for various categories of that particular film, and all of them did very well. So it is of no surprise that we are seeing him returning to direct this particular film, and him being a devout, I think Catholic or Christian, I'm not so sure. He's so intrigued about the story of Christ that he made it into a movie. And I can remember in at a time when it was released, at the time we didn't have well established cinemas. Most of the cinemas in Ghana, I'm speaking with regards to Ghana, had sort of collapsed because there was a period of time when cinemas or movie wasn't really booming in the country, and therefore it led to most of the cinemas being sold. However, the makeshift cinemas using entertainment centers were filled to capacity, even with people still lining up wanting to enter, and yet there was no space. So it became a phenomenal hit in that time. And I can guarantee that in this time, if the strategy is done well and the cinemas are not enough, perhaps one of the things that they can look at is perhaps liaison with some of the churches who have massive auditoriums of about 6,000 capacity. And I mean, within that range, it could contain more people and would do such great, box office numbers as as we are expecting. Because if you check the figures, it made over 600 million, and for the longest time possible, about 20 years, it reigned as the number one R-rated movie domestically in America. I'm not so sure about the world, but I won't be surprised that's the case. And not only that, it was also an independent movie, which was financed for just $30 million. That is mind blowing, and that is how potential that demographics is ripe for such films if they are done well. And knowing Mel Gibson, he would make the movie to be as real and gritty and grounded, which won't feel like the trope of Christian films, which most often doesn't even sometimes attract Christians themselves to watch, because it doesn't bring it has a feel to it that doesn't resonate or that doesn't feel some way somehow authentic or very relatable in the real world. Not to say that there are not Christian movies that don't speak well. I mean, that doesn't tag at the heart of Christians. I mean, there are some that do, like War Room and the Stanley Brothers, creating such films. Phenomenal films do exist, but with Mel Gibson's film, not only does it touch or handles the subject matter or the Christian faith subject matter as well, but it grounds it in a reality that you could tell that it feels like you are reliving that moment, like you are transported back in time and you are reliving that moment, seeing what was happening to Christ. And I think that is what excites a lot of us filmmakers or a lot of us film enthusiasts who also sharing the faith to even anticipate this more. There is an interview that he did, and he did speak about how um, he wants to delve deep into this law. As usual, he's not going to follow the regular linear storytelling. If you watch particularly the Passion of the Christ, it didn't follow any linear storytelling, and not only that, but he did he sort of, even though it was a 12-hour period towards his death on the cross, it did pick go back in time to pick times when Christ was just I think a little child, to the time when he was making a table, and or highlighted on a relationship between him and his mother and so forth, and he's looking at doing the same here, but even this time may delve into certain realms, just as he said on the Joe Rogan show, delve in certain realms like the falling of angels. He literally even called the film a sci-fi epic film. And in another interview, you also had Jim Caviezel also saying that this film would be a phenomenal hit. I'm sure he has read a story, and knowing the capacity of what's it called, what's it called, Mel Gibson stands to offer to the film, is not amazed. It looks like something is happening to my audio, and I want to correct it before it goes. Yeah, I hope so, man. Yeah. So I hope I'm back. Yeah, so my audio is back. Pardon me if you experience a little break in the audio below. So yeah, so Jim Caviezel spoke about how powerful the story they are going to tell now is, and for him, he says that that's going to be one of the phenomenal hits, in terms of. I mean, for him, he believes that even this will be one of the biggest hits we are yet to experience. And honestly, I won't be surprised if it's done well and marketed well to the widest audience possible, and they put in the necessary structures to ensure that in certain places like Africa, in particular Africa, if they liaise with the churches and do particular targeted marketing together with even screening in the church auditoriums, you can be assured of even $1 billion and more. If the first one made about 600 million, even though it's been 20 years in the making, almost similar to that of James Cameron's 2009 release, it could still make that amount of money and even more. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm sure some of the questions that we'll be asking ourselves, that Jim Caviezel is over 50 years old, and with Jesus being 33 years old, how would this work? Well, it's been confirmed that he'll be using the aging technology. That is, Mel Gibson will be using the aging technology to keep him looking almost same as he was when he did the Passion of the Christ. So this is indeed exciting news, not just for the Christian faith, but for the film world in general, because this talented filmmaker Mel Gibson will pour all his heart and might into it, together with Jim Caviezel. So I'm really excited about this. Let me know what you think about this story development, about the sequels to the Passion of the Christ, that we are not just having one or two. Do you think it's too late a time, or do you think it's just perfect, looking at even the dates that these films will be released in come 2027? So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. So moving on from this story to the next. It's been a while since we perhaps saw I mean, I'm sure, yes, for Djimon Hounsou, we've been seeing him in films like The Marvels, where he played a role in, and we've also saw him in the, I think, the first installation of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Also, in recent times, we did see him in the um, is it Quiet Place Day One, a prequel to the Quiet Place where he also starred in, and also forgive me, I may not have known, but it's been a while since we also saw Halle Berry in a movie, and fortunately for us, they are teaming up together to star in a project called The Red Card. And let's read an article that have been published in Deadline, and it reads that Djimon Hounsou and Halle Berry join Africa's set thriller Red Card, written by Bad Boys creator George Gallo and Nick Vallelonga. I hope I got the name right. And this is written by Melanie Goodfellow and Andreas Weissman. And it reads that Joel Souza will direct, or let me take it from exclusive. Djimon Hounsou and Halle Berry have signed for the Africa set trafficking thriller Red Card, taking its protagonist on a journey from the rolling grasslands of Kenya's Maasai Mara to the Moroccan port city of Casablanca. Pardon me, earlier on, I think I did say Egypt, it's rather Morocco. So, and I continue. Joel Souza will direct the movie from a screenplay written by Bad Boys creator and Midnight Run writer George Gallo, as well as Oscar-winning Green Book screenwriter Nick Vallelonga. It is Souza's first feature since Western Rust, on which a prop gun being handled by Alex Baldwin fired a live round during a scene rehearsal, killing cinematographer Halina, pardon me if I'm not getting the name right, Hutchins, and also striking the director in the shoulder. The original story, based on real events out of Africa, comes from Eva Roosevelt and Robert Menzies and Michael J. Hirschman. Hounsou will star as Max Elmi, a veteran ranger battling poachers in Kenya who joins forces with Dane Harris, a tenacious special agent and part of a team led by FBI supervisor Amanda Brockner, that is a Berry, working with international law enforcement to fight trafficking rings abroad. When Max's son, a talented soccer player, falls prey to a deceitful sports agent and disappears into the criminal underworld of North Africa, Max will stop at nothing to find his child, and Dane will have to decide how far he is willing to go. Yeah, so the Odyssey takes them from the quiet Maasai villages of Kenya to simmering streets of Casablanca. The film is endorsed by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and backed by the Soloviev Foundation. Soloviev Foundation. So that is actually interesting, good news that we are hearing with regards to the pairing of Halle Berry and Djimon Hounsou. And these two actors in their own right are mega superstars. And I'm excited for Djimon Hounsou in particular with regards to the fact that in as much as he's one of, I mean, Hollywood's phenomenal actors, unfortunately, he doesn't get much films to do, or even when he does, I mean, there was an interview he did that I said that and as much as we see him on screens on these big projects, it doesn't make enough money and it's quite a struggle sometimes for him. So whenever I see him in a feature film, I get excited. And not only that, but it is my hope that perhaps this particular vehicle will be something that will make him a leading man in Hollywood. And listen, he starred in some major films. You're talking about Amistad, I think directed by Steven Spielberg, and he also starred in Blood Diamonds, which he played opposite, what's it called, Leonardo DiCaprio. And so he's indeed a force to reckon with. He's also been in films like Gladiator. So I'm excited to see him in this movie, and it is my my hope that this movie becomes a phenomenal hit and hopefully churn in a performance that will have him nominated again for an Oscar and possibly win it, possibly winning. And I'm excited about this project because then this will be shot on Africa, on the mainland of Africa, and also would give some the much needed attention to stories from Africa. And with Halle Berry pairing with him, and Halle Berry, is an Oscar winner. And so having these two powerhouses coming together to star in this film is a major win already. My my hope is that it will really get a necessary marketing push and all that is needed to make that happen. Coming off Rust is Joel Souza, and it is unfortunate with regards to the incident that happened on that film. And I'm hoping looking from this particular one, it looks like he's fully recovered and geared to delve into this particular story, and it will be exciting to see what they'll be churning out. And so, and also the exciting thing about this particular project is the fact that you have two powerful creators or writers coming together to also helm the script or write a script for this particular production. So you have Green Book, which starred Mahershala Ali, and I think he won for that production. He won the best actor, if I'm not mistaken. And also, so you have the writer. I think the name is Nick Vallelonga, who wrote that one. Yeah, who was a screenwriter, the scribe for Green Book, and also won actually won. So there's an assembly of some powerful powerhouses to make this happen. Powerful filmmakers to make this happen. And also you have George Gallo, who is from Bad Boys and Midnight Run. I'm not sure, I've been to watch Midnight Run, but I know I've watched Bad Boys. And speaking, it looks like the combination, this will be more of an, I mean, if I'm just going to tell it off from these two writers coming together, it looks like Nick Vallelonga will be providing that emotional depth and human that emotional depth and human relations to or human chemistry between these two. If you ever watch Green Book, you could tell from Mahershala Ali's character to that of Viggo Mortensen's character, the dynamics, that relationship they had with each other, that character dynamics was really powerful, and the emotional depth of that film is so moving. And looking at what also George Gallo did with Bad Boys. I mean, he was the writer, so obviously, but in terms of the the playful nature between Martin Lawrence and Will Smith's character, and also the action sequences, I think we're going to have a mesh of Sound of Freedom, that is which starred also Jim Caviezel, or perhaps even a more gruesome one like that of Man on Fire. You have that's Denzel Washington, to that of what do I call Bad Boys. So it's going to be a mesh of them. So it will be interesting to see how this actually turn out to be. And honestly, from the look of it, yes, I'm excited about it, but we still have to wait and hope that when a trailer drops, whether it will meet up to this stellar gathering of crew members to make this work, whether it will meet that expectation, we are yet to see. But I'm excited for the 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 stellar of talents that have been pulled together to onto this project to make it work. I don't know about you. Let me know what you think about this thing in particular. When I'm having Mahershala Ali, sorry, having Djimon Hounsou and Halle Berry starring together with also all these scribes and director. What do you think of this? Do you think it will be a very good movie, coupled with the fact that this is actually inspired by true life events? So that journey itself will be quite interesting to see. The landscapes and the people of both Kenya and Morocco will lend itself to a theatrical run, a very different experience that we've not seen in quite a while. We've seen that of Chochi, which was way back, and other films from Africa. I'm hoping that this would also, add to the roster of films that have made it into Hollywood. So let me know your thoughts on this particular production, having the teaming up of Djimon Hounsou and Halle Berry, which I believe they've never done a movie together. Let me know your thoughts on this particular development in the comment section below. So moving on from this to the next story, about 2 days ago or so, I did an episode on The Eyes of Ghana. And The Eyes of Ghana happens to be a documentary film that chronicles the journey of how the cinematographer of Ghana's premier way back, the founder of this nation, Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah, that is Chris Hesse, who happens to be his cinematographer. He The whole premise of the story is that some archival footage which he was mandated to destroy, but him being the cinematographer went all out to keep them safe. So in the minds of the powers that be at the time, thinking that it's been destroyed, he kept all those footages, and fortunately we have them now available, stored safely with him, together with his team, and Anita Fonu, Nanajua, Efrempong, and a whole host of other people, to make sure that this documentary was captured to tell the story of the august cinematographer who lived through all these regimes, let me say political regimes, from Nkrumah through to a FIFA to President J.J. Rowland. So he's seen a lot and he's documented a lot. And fortunately for us, it's been documented by, executive produced by Obama and directed by Ben Proudfoot, who happens to be an Oscar winner himself for two short documentaries that he's produced. So this comes with a very much heavyweight talent behind the camera directing this documentary. And it's exciting to know that it has been selected in the 50th Toronto International Film Festival. And the exciting thing about it is that it's kickstarting the documentary category come September. So let's read an article published in the Hollywood Reporter as to this development. And it reads that Ben Proudfoot's Obama's backed the Eyes of Ghana to open Toronto first doc program. TIFF has also booked films from Jimmy Chin, Chai Vasaheli, and Raoul Peck, Laura Poitras, Sepide Farsi, and Darlene Napons for its 2025 doc sidebar. This is written by Ethan Vlesen. So there in your short is the Chris Hesse, that is the personal cinematographer of Kwame Nkrumah, and also almost all the heads of states in the country of Ghana. And I'm sure that's the vault where all these archival footages have been kept. I'm sure it is even it's not just that of Nkrumah's, and I'm sure that of other head of states who also happened to have been recorded by him. So let's read the article. It says that Oscar-winning director Ben Proudfoot's The Eyes of Ghana, executive producer, produced by Barack and Michelle Obama, is set to open the Toronto Film Festival's doc sidebar, organizers said Wednesday. Nova Scotia raised an LA-based Proudfoot won his 2 Academy Awards for his short documentary films The Queen of Basketball and The Last Repair Shop, that impressed Oscar voters with their cinematic poetry and craft. Now, it has taken the Obama's Higher Ground Productions and Oscar-nominated documentary filmmaker and maker Moses Bwayo to convince Proudfoot to bring his emotional and immersive storytelling to the feature documentary with a portrait of Chris Hesse, the personal cinematographer for Kwame Nkrumah, who reveals a vast library of lost films about the legendary African leader to modern audiences. There's no word on whether the Obamas will be in Toronto for the world premiere of The Eyes of Ghana, which also recounts the rise and fall of Nkrumah, who was toppled by a 1966 Ghanaian coup d'etat. But alongside Proudfoot, the Obamas have their own Oscar kudos for American Factory, the documentary executive produced by Higher Ground and directed by documentarians Julia Rechet and Stephen Bogner as they took home the award for Best Documentary at the 2020 Academy Awards. So, yeah, so this is exciting news all around to have Ben Proudfoot's film backed by Obama's production house to be nominated for the or selected for the Toronto International Film Festival. And listen, as a Ghanaian and an African, I am so excited, and also a filmmaker. I'm so excited with regards to this development, in the sense that rarely do we have such historical stories being told, whether be it in live action feature and also that of a documentary. And when I talk about it being told, I'm talking about on a scale like that of a Hollywood level production. And yes, we are fortunate as an African to have that of Nelson Mandela's story being told. But there are numerous other African leaders who perhaps may not mean anything to the world beyond us or beyond this continent, but for us as Africans, they mean a lot to us. And we've been hoping and anticipating that these stories will be told. Unfortunately, for most of us from this side of the continent, the funding to tell these stories is, I mean, we can't, it would take quite huge sums of money to tell some of these stories. I mean, relatively, yes, with documentaries it may be cheaper, but I think with this one, I don't think it was that cheap. I mean, definitely not too. I don't know about the budget, but I'm not sure it is too explosive of a budget. But even to tell these stories from this side of our country or continent, it would require a lot of funding, and we are excited that these stories are being told. It's starting with a documentary. Hopefully, after all these footages have been seen, maybe someday soon, it will be a feature film as well. But I'm so excited about this because there's a lot about Kwame Nkrumah that I'm sure the world would want to know, or even for us as Ghanaians or Africans, we would want to know. And over the years, because of coup and stuff, a lot of the narrative as to the facts of it, we cannot tell. But fortunately, because of this archival footage that have been discovered, it is indeed an opportunity to know more about what happened during those times, and who and more about who the leader is. And um, honestly, I would say that Chris Hesse is a national treasure because through his eyes, he's seen all these political regimes and he was there when history was unfolding. So hopefully, I'm sure he has not just the footage of Kwame Nkrumah, but also throughout all those regimes, has footages on all of them. And not just that, but his vast experience extends just beyond documentary and chronicling the lives of political historical figures, but he's also dabbled into feature films and short films with one of Ghana's legendary and iconic directors, Kwao Ansa. So he did Heritage Africa and did Love Brood and an African Port, which these two film of which these two films won so many awards, and they are such beautiful stories of Ghanaian origin, and it's such exceptional. If you ever get opportunity to watch it, wherever you are in the world, please do, and you would attest to how powerful of a cinematographer he is. So it is exciting to have this story about this film being nominated in the Toronto International Film Festival, regardless of whether it wins an award or not. I'm excited already. However, it is really going against some heavyweights of some documentaries. And let me see if I can quickly run through them. And so some of the documentaries has to do with it. I think you have John Doer's The Balloonist, about adventures setting out to circle the globe in a balloon. And you also have uh, Tasha Van Zandt's A Life Illuminated, about marine biologist Dr. Eddie Wider exploring the ocean depths. We also have Christopher Nelios Whistle, centering on a competition for champion whistlers. That would be quite an interesting documentary. And also Nance versus the Vatican, from director Lorena Luciano and executive producer Mariska Gite, as the film exposes predatory priests abusing nuns inside the Catholic Church. And I think there was also first looks for director Billy Cobbin's Cancel, the Paula Dean story about the scandal surrounding the celebrity chef using racial slurs in the workplace, and Nicole Bazion's Modern Hall, about the sex industry through the eyes of former sex worker and advocate Andrea Werhorn, and Free Solo and Nyad filmmakers Chai Vasarelli and Jimmy Chen's Love Plus War, their latest film that follows news the longtime film collaborators have filed for a divorce, and still single from filmmakers Jamal Berger and Jukan. So it has some powerful films that is going to, go against. So there are quite a lot more in there. I mean, that you can take a look at. So it's really an uphill battle in terms of the competition. But for us as Ghanaians, and you know, we are happy that this story of another filmmaker in Ghana, an iconic one of at that, his story is being told, and I'm excited. And I think in the title, "The Eyes of Ghana," he happens to be the eyes through whom we are going to see Ghana in a different light, or perhaps some of the missing histories of Ghana that we've not seen over the years. So it's quite a revelation, and I'm excited about this. I don't know about you. I'm sure maybe you're excited too as well. But for me, being a Ghanaian, I am elated because finally I'm elated on different levels. One, that another filmmaker is going to be recognized for all the works that he's done. A Ghanaian filmmaker at that, a cinematographer, Chris Hesse. Number two, the story of Africa, or I mean, Kwame Nkrumah is also going to be exposed on a larger scale, where certain archival footages that it's said to have been destroyed or sort of vanished from history have now been found. So we're going to get to know more about the leader and the country as a whole. So there's a lot to uncover with this particular documentary, and I'm hoping soon enough it will be either released on the platform soon, or maybe shown in the cinemas to have us interact with the Chris Hesse and perhaps his team that helped, made this documentary a possibility. And I'm excited that the Obamas didn't spare any, the Obama and Wayo didn't spare any expense in bringing on such talented filmmaker documentarian like Ben Proudfoot. So I'm excited about that. I don't know about you. Let me know what you think about this development with the Eyes of Ghana opening the Toronto International Film Festival. Whatever you think about this, please leave your thoughts in the comment section below. So unfortunately, all too soon, I've come to an end to another live stream of the Film Mandate. I hope you enjoyed it. And whatever be your thoughts or whatsoever, please leave it in the comment section below and it will be very much appreciated. So, all too soon, I come to an end. I want to thank you also for joining me for this particular live stream. I'll be coming your way again tomorrow with another episode of the Film Mandate. My name is Papa Otu, and I'll see you soon.